Hey everybody, welcome to a very special, different day of the week, outside of the norm podcast episode. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention or not, but we are all quarantined. We are all in a weird state. Things are happening out there, and we felt like we needed to get in the conversation and start talking about some of the things that are going on. So, we got your usual suspects here. We got a Bonnie Lewis out in Austin, Texas.
Hello.
Beer, beer, beer. Oh, God. Mr. Michael Carl Erre out in Ohio.
We're locked down, baby. We are locked. Are you locked down, Bonnie? Are you locked down?
You know what? It starts tonight at midnight.
Oh.
Wait, you haven't been locked down this whole time?
Nope.
No, we have been self-locked down to flatten the curve, but we are officially locked down tonight at midnight.
Well, welcome to the club, Bonnie.
Thank you.
How long have you been self-locked down?
11 days.
11 days or 10 years.
Depending on when
Feels
you
like
ask.
a mix of the both.
Yes. I think we're kind of the same. I think it's been that long. We were a little ahead of the curve. And my kids are getting texts from people that are like, dude, the first day in quarantine was so hard. And they're like, oh, you don't even know. You don't.
You don't even know.
Don't even know. So we've been thinking. Bonnie's been doing this great thing on Sunday mornings, and we've been thinking about how much or not at all, or if we should address obviously something that's on everybody's minds and consuming a lot of attention. Because is it better to talk about it when everyone's talking about it, or to talk about something else so that there's a place where you're not talking about it?
So this podcast is just going to turn into an episode by episode review of The Mandalorian.
Yes.
We're shifting topics.
So I thought we would wrestle with four questions. Number one, what do we think God is doing in the midst of all of this? What do we think is being exposed in the midst of all of this? What does faithful witness look like in these times? And then lastly, what do we as a community want to do together as we kind of enter into this, or have already entered into this season? So let's kick it off. Tim and Bonnie, what do you think God is doing? Is this from God? Is this a judgment from God?
That sounds like so crickets. I mean, my simple answer is no, because I don't think God works that way. I don't think that, I don't think he's, judges us like that. I don't think that he, I think we live in a world where pain and sin exists. I think oftentimes if we hold a view of God where he's judging us and he's like, inflicting pain or hurt on purpose to sort of, I don't know, do X, Y, and Z, get our attention, punish us, whatever that is. The question I would ask there is like, well, then what do we then believe about God? What do we then believe about our own personal sin or judgment, or like how much is it a reflection of me versus the world? I think it's like it's so multi-layered, but I think to say is this God's doing, like I would just quickly, without being able to reference much, be like, no, just hands down, no.
But didn't he do it in the Old Testament? Didn't he do stuff like this in the Old Testament?
It depends where. Tell me, and I'll tell you if I think that was it. I mean, it depends on. I don't know that we can honestly say that. It depends on the book and the genre and the time period, and asking, do we think he was doing that, or do we think that the people writing that's how they viewed it? And can we call that into question?
Right. So in terms of what is God doing, I don't think we're saying this is from God.
Right.
I would, for those who see Old Testament warrant to kind of like, hey, well, God used to do this stuff. If he did, it was in the covenantal system of Israel, which we are not in. And we are in an entirely different covenantal system where it just doesn't work like that. Unless there's clear universal revelation from God saying, this is discipline for you, it is theological malpractice to put this on God. So I couldn't agree with you more. So in asking the question, we're not saying, okay, so God is doing this. Why is he doing this? Nope, we're not asking that question. We're asking the question instead, in the midst of this, what do we think God is doing?
I can't say globally. I mean, I think there's a few things good that you can see. There's obviously a ton of bad. But I was looking the other day at the map of China and the reduced pollution when everything was shut down.
Italy too, and even, with the rivers.
Yeah, and like clean water and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that's not obviously a reason this is happening. And it's not like, oh, good. But it's like, oh, this like silver lining or even just like hope for renewal that seems to be sort of
side conversation on what is happening.
Yes, exactly. So I find that to be interesting. And I know for me personally, I feel like there's sort of this a very genuine space to feel very connected to people I don't know. Like this realization that like some of it is scary, some of it's painful, some of it's making me feel afraid. Not because I actually feel that way. Actually, in Texas, the panic is not a lot. If you're at a grocery store, a little bit, but other than that, it's not a ton.
If you need some toilet paper, it's a little dire.
Yeah, exactly. But still this feeling of like, if you watch the news or you know that people are suffering. So it's reminding me of how connected we all are to each other. And it's also giving me space to sort of look at my rhythms that I have held for a long time and habits that I've held for a long time and sort of reorient those. And so I see there is definitely a global slowing down and looking inward that I see.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, with the first question, I feel like at no point did I think God is judging us. I was like, oh, somebody ate a bat. And then some bad things happen from that, which is like a weird chain of like, we had this conversation in the house. They were, my wife has been assuming that we're going to get sick, and I have been assuming that we're not, whether subconscious or not. And I'm the anxious one in the house. I'm the anxiety riddled member of the household. And it's never really like, I have not felt that kind of fear.
Yeah.
About it. I don't know why. I'm not doing anything differently. But when I look at it, I just see there's these traces of things, and I think that the slowing down is super interesting.
Yeah.
Like but at the same time, like I also, if God is doing something, I wonder if he's just waiting to, I have no idea. I don't want to posit things that I don't know, but we were talking earlier about the church's response to it, and it has seemed a little weird. And there's definitely a lot of churches out there that are, and you can see it on the news, so I'm not bringing any new information to light, but pastors saying like, hey, our God is bigger than this disease, shake hands, and we're going to keep meeting and that kind of stuff. And I, if anything, I feel like this has been a season of discernment and learning what it means to have faith, but to also use your brain. And I don't know. That's where I've been.
I agree with that. I think too, if I can add to that, I think of this idea of like, so many times when these tragic things happen, we say like, where is God? What is he doing?
Yeah.
And to point to these little things like how God is partnering with people, right? So like the people that are stepping up, the people that are going to get groceries for their elderly neighbors, the people that are on the front lines and like different places like that. Like for me, it's this reminder of kind of like what you said, we can't be this passive, I'm just going to wait. But instead this partnership, like we see that in the book of Ruth a lot, that it's about, she really steps into what God's already doing. And it's like this beautiful story about how we can partner with a God that's already at work.
Yeah.
Waiting for him to show up and wondering
Yes.
why isn't he here?
I like that, and I've seen that in friends. We have a few friends who are nurses who are in the middle of, they're in the thick of it.
Yeah.
And right before we did this, I was just listening to a podcast where a bunch of nurses and doctors called in, and they're working, a lot of them are working 20 hours days, right?
Wow.
And there's one guy in particular, this doctor, and I'm sure most of you have seen him in the news, that he bought a mini fridge and moved into the garage because of the fact that he was in it, like in the middle of it all day long, and didn't want to put his family in any sort of danger. So he's quarantining himself from his family while he's on the front lines, kind of digging in. And, you know, on Sunday I spoke at church where I was trying to find ways that we could be actively responsible for things. And a lot of it was like, you know, somebody, friends that wrote letters to everybody on their street, and they're connecting for the first time with their neighbors. And they're saying, hey, we are going to, like, if you need anything, this is my phone number. If you need, you know, if you're older and you need us to get you groceries or whatever, like, just like people are connecting in really fascinating ways. And you see that in Italy too, with like the musicians going out on the decks and starting the songs with each other and just singing in the streets together, and this beautiful
just like
human connection.
We're
It's kind
wired
of cool
for it. Yeah.
What do you think God's doing with the church? You mentioned that, Tim, earlier. Churches are having to pivot.
I'm always worried, and I don't, so please take all of this with not just a grain of salt, but maybe a handful. But I always am worried. So I've seen churches who have responded by just making everything about their community. How can we invest in what is happening in this area? And even today, like I saw one of the news stories this morning, like I wake up in the morning and I can't help it. It's like a drug. I get right onto the news to see what is happening. And the news this morning, one of them was just these Italian priests who were sick and were giving up their ventilators and whatever to these younger people who are sick because they felt that was their duty. And it was such a counter to a lot of the stuff that I had been seeing, where it's just like, he was literally laying his life. I mean, he died. The priest died, is why it was in the news. Yeah. And he was literally laying his life down and laying down what he had for the people that were around him. And quite a few priests have died over there. I mean, a lot of people have died, period, over there. But I was like, man, that speaks to me personally, just me personally, a lot more than a lot of the how do we conduct church in this time period? Like, just like an active involvement in the lives of people. And so, you know, we were trying to figure out how we could affect our community. And then I stopped and I called my pastor and said, hey, before I start doing things, what are you guys doing? It makes way more sense for me to support you and to come alongside a larger organization than it does for me to try to figure out how to stopgap this. And he's like, thank you for calling. Here's what we're doing. And then, I mean, that goes on for a while, but I have seen churches getting their hands dirty where they're like, this is, you know, the community needs us. They don't necessarily need us, but there is a need, and the church is stepping into that need. And then there's an opposite version that's like, no, still, please come to church. And, you know, I don't know.
You've commented on the fact that for some churches it's just reproducing the Sunday service online.
Yeah.
And that doesn't seem to be it doesn't seem to be super helpful. Why do you think that is?
For me personally, or not just me, I've had a few people text and call and they're like, why is the church just trying to pretend like this is normal? Or why are we trying to offer normalcy?
Oh,
and
interesting.
And I'm like, I'm not sure. But I think that this idea of being authentic and intentional with what is happening, some people like me and my wife, we're very lucky. Our jobs have continued to happen during this time period. We are very blessed and very lucky, and that is not lost on us. And we know a lot of people where that's not the case, and they're in full on panic mode. Mm-hmm. They've been laid off. Their bills do not cease. Life does not stop when this stops. So they're spiraling, trying to figure out how to navigate what is an unknown exponential amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very common reality around the world, not the country, not the state, not our town, the world right now. It's a common reality. For me, I think, well, how does the church step into that? And how do we minister and how do we offer help? Like, that's my biggest thing is like, how do we come alongside people who are in need at this point? Right? So how do we love the Lord our God with all of our heart and mind and soul? And how do we love our neighbor as ourselves? And if I live in that, then what does this look like during this time period? So that's been the wrestle. How do I figure that out? Where is God moving? Where is God pointing? Where do I see need? What do people need right now? And then how do we, I don't have the money to solve everybody's problems, but how do I intentionally get involved to help what's happening right now?
Totally. Bonnie, what do you see from your perspective going on in the church or the world right now?
Yeah, I see like a lot of people just grasping at trying to figure out different ways to talk about it or to wrestle like with it and what's in. I think some people want normalcy. They want to feel like, oh, that was normal and good. I think others need to sort of sift through it. I think it really depends on your personality and past experience you've had, if any, with this type of thing. And I think, like Tim is saying, trying to figure out what to do, what can I do to help? And someone I know here brought this up, and it really made me stop. And I thought, oh, yeah, is that so we're in the same boat as you. We have been able to keep our jobs too. So being at home together, it feels like a huge gift. When else can I say like, oh my gosh, for X many weeks, we all just like hunkered down and stay together. But I had a friend and she does a lot with teens who are like from domestic abuse situations and even other, women, children and men. And there are so many people that home is not a safe place.
Yes. So
to shelter in place is actually the worst thing that could happen to you. And also the homeless population, they also have nowhere to go or can't get the help that we take for granted. And so there's so many complications, and I think we're doing the best we can of saying, hey, let's isolate and stay inside. But for some people, that doesn't feel like it feels for me. For some people, that's terrifying or that's scary or it's actually unsafe. Mm-hmm. So that's something I've heard from people who are in that world. Yeah. But I haven't heard that from the church. And I understand that that's hard. What are we supposed to do? If we're supposed to social distance and we're supposed to, I don't think there's an easy answer there. But especially if we continually want the church to be a safe place, and then that place isn't there. For many people that go to church to be safe, to escape, and then all of a sudden they can't. What does that mean? And how can the church continue to create a safe place when some people have to be in places that aren't safe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are huge. All right, question number 2.
Well, what about you? I want to hear what you think
about what God is doing. Yeah,
in the church too. What the church is up to.
it seems like the church has been so Sunday morning centric and so gathering centric that it's fun to watch churches wrestle with questions that should have been wrestled with a long time ago.
Yeah.
And you just begin to realize how much of what is offered and what is scored and kept track of isn't super relevant and meaningful in moments like these. And so I think that's a beautiful, beautiful deconstructing of the imagination of the American church, because it's been trapped for so long on, let's just do a Sunday service and call that church. And I actually think this is a wonderful moment for the church to actually rediscover its roots, because it's been locked in for so long on just a very narrow way of thinking about these things.
Yeah.
So, and Bonnie too, like the stuff that you were bringing up, we had that conversation as well, and that's so prudent. And also, we were trying to figure out, like, just because my wife Shauna is a high school teacher, and how many kids are from single parent households that don't have access to food, and they're getting all their meals from schools. Yeah. And the state is trying to keep up with what that looks like, and how to just, like, this is just basic needs stuff, right? This is just
breakfast and lunch.
Yeah, just kids having square meals, period. Nothing over the top of that. And figuring out, like, when I talked to the pastor, I was like, hey, what? And he's like, well, we're trying to figure this out. And I was like, well, what does that look like? I'm like, what does that look like? And he's like, well, we're working with the county, we're working with the school districts, and like how to get kids from A to B, how to get them food. And it's like, but you all have to be fingerprinted, you all have to be live scanned and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, there's all these extra features that are involved with this stuff. And in the meantime, a lot of these kids, like, that's where they got breakfast and lunch every single day of the week, because mom is still working and dad is out of the picture for a lot of that scenarios. There's just these really practical, like, down in the trenches, this is what life looks like on a daily basis kind of stuff. Like, not existential, not universe level, just like down in the mud. This is where a lot of human beings are at this point in time.
Yeah, it is crazy to think. I mean, what if churches, like Mike, what you're saying, like this, what if we took all the production, all the money we spend on a Sunday, and you instead opened up your kitchens and gave meals to the kids in your community that didn't, that couldn't get them anymore from school? It raises these questions of, where are we spending our money, and what could we be doing and still be the church? Do you know what I mean? Like you're saying, if everything's stripped down, what is it that we have left? And so it sort of calls all those things into question. If the church isn't a reflection of the daily life of our people and our neighborhood, and if what we're doing isn't helping them thrive, and then are we doing the right thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's there's a lot being exposed in the church. What do you think is being exposed in American culture?
Oh.
Because crisis brings out some of the best and worst. So what do you see? What do you see being exposed?
I think there was a real sort of disassociation at first with it, it was sort of a virus that was taking place in all these places that weren't like our home. We do a lot of disassociating, and I think this was part of it. So then when it came here and it sort of stopped life, I think it was like, oh wait. The beauty of that is that we remember that we're all the same. The beauty of it is that we remember that no matter what our status in any way, like we love to talk about our economic status or our democracy or the, anything, how big our military is or how many weapons we have. It's just this idea of like, there's sort of this universal thing that can remind us all that we're equal. So I think in some ways, that's being called into question for America. I think the hustle culture is for sure being called into question. And where do I find my worth? What do I do when I'm alone with my thoughts? You know, we all have stuff that we think of all the time, but we are used to being able to push those things aside because we also have a ton of things habitually put into place so that we can distract ourselves from those thoughts. So when we don't have them anymore, there's only so much Netflix, podcasts, things you can watch before you really are bored. Like we keep joking about it. Like, and we live in this like sleepy neighborhood and nobody's out. And now that we're all quarantined on like day 10, all of a sudden everybody's out, like keeping their distance, but like outside. And so there's sort of this reconnecting, I think, to the inner self and to the flow of life as it may be, based on seeing our neighbor, like everything we've talked about, seeing our neighbor, and really asking yourself, like, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? What do I need? There's so many questions there that are like really driving down to just these basic levels that I think we've really done a good job of putting things in the way so we don't have to think about them. So I see that a lot. I see a lot of exposure of inner pain, inner creativity, inner questioning, thoughts, joy, like on all the spectrum of all of it. But I think it's some of that stuff's coming up to breathe for the first time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about on a more cultural level? Like in economics, politics? I mean, what do we see there? Tim, what do you think? I know you're fired up on this one.
I'm afraid to talk on this one.
Be angry. Come on.
To what some of Bonnie said, yeah, I've seen a lot of like, being a musician for a long time, I tend to have a lot of my friends are from artistry venues, and so a lot of them have been panicking because a lot of them work in like the film industry or the TV industry or the music, and they're all just like, everything's shut down. I don't know. I don't know. I need to create. B, I'm no longer making any money, so they're panicking. But you see, like, a lot of. I mean, this week, I guess when this podcast comes out, it'll be tonight.
Still this week, yeah.
If you're listening to, So I'm playing like an online music festival that these people just like. They just needed to create, and so they put together a festival that runs from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all online and orchestrated somehow every different. I mean, there's a lot of people playing, a lot of artists via Skype plugged in through the same YouTube channel to create a festival online. That's cool. It's remarkable, like the amount of work that went into it, and they're just like, just because they want to create and showcase each other and then give people something to do in their homes. Like, it's just really, no one's making any money. It's just a ton of work to for nothing financially, but it's like this innate need to connect with other people is super encouraging. And that's the same thing with like what we mentioned earlier, the Italians on their porches playing trumpets and saxophones and singing together, and this massive humanity creating music and art and joy together is just so encouraging.
Yeah.
On the other side of the fence, I have been nothing but frustrated with the way that our country has handled this. And that's going to be I know people fall on very different sides of the fence with that. And people have, so this is just me speaking for me. I follow a lot of Native American newspapers, and they are, a lot of the reservations only have one grocery store, and it's very small. And so when we run out of toilet paper, or that stuff slows down at the 9 grocery stores in our area, they're competing with one, and they're not getting a lot of food or medical services. And so that's been, a lot of those places feel very neglected because they have been very neglected throughout a lot of history. But especially now. And you see a lot of athletes getting tested without any symptoms, while a lot of normal people are struggling to get tests. So there's a really big disparaging gap between wealth and those who do not have a lot. And the folks that are wealthy seem to be getting a little extra privilege. And that's very, very frustrating. You see senators who vote against healthcare or against bills to equip everybody with the ability to get tested and that kind of stuff, and then get tested themselves and find out they're sick and then go into quarantine. It's just the gap between the haves and the have-nots feels desperately large, and that feels very, very frustrating to me. And again, I am coming from a place where I have my job, and I feel very blessed and privileged to have that. And I know that that's not the case in inner city LA. And so I'm trying to be as diplomatic as possible. I feel very frustrated with our response to a lot of this stuff. I have Asian American friends who are feeling very discriminated against because of the language that's being used in labeling this as a Chinese virus, because the virus originated from that area. And they're getting pushback from people in their area that are directly attributing it, because of that language, attributing that to them. So yeah, there's a lot in this country that I'm very, very frustrated and angry with how we've responded. There's great things as well, but there's a lot that I feel very, very upset with. Personally, me alone in that.
And how do you handle that?
I vent a lot to my wife and to my friends, and we try to find ways to be as inclusive as we can. Auburn is a very white area. It is growing, but we try to be very intentional with our language and our response to people, and trying to figure out, like the thing with the meals, like how do we help those kids who are from lower socioeconomic areas to get to getting those meals? How do we make sure that they're eating breakfast and lunch? Because, man, people should be able to eat their meals. Trying to figure that stuff out, working with our friends that are nurses and doctors and saying, hey, what does this really look like? How can we directly help people in our area? Trying to help the elderly get groceries and the medical things that they need to the best of our ability. But it feels like that's all you can do, right? You can't fix the world. How do you be directly involved with the people that are right around you?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what the answers are. I know what I'm frustrated with, and I know how I'm trying to tangibly affect it. I feel like I'm talking way too much on this.
No, you're not at all.
Bonnie, do you resonate with that in terms of there's a kind of injustice sort of thread being exposed that I think we all knew was there, but now we're seeing it differently?
So I'll be honest, I haven't done a ton of news reading or politic reading.
It's probably smart.
I have such a history. This is a unique time for me. I have such a history of major anxiety and OCD. And as I've shared before, it is conveniently all around germs and sickness. So a pandemic that is also charged politically is a rough spot for someone like me. So I intentionally rely on updates from friends or family because I can get easily sucked into it. And I'm also an Enneagram 4, which is not an excuse, but a reality of my way of dealing with things since I was a kid. My like survival skills, my fixations, the things I did, is all around to feel everything very deeply. So that's tough when I see images and see things on the internet. So I will say that I'm pleasantly surprised. I was just telling my therapist today, and grateful for the many years of work I have done to prepare me for something like this. Because I said to my husband, I'm like, imagine if I hadn't done all that therapy and hadn't done the past, 9 months of EMDR, what I would be like in this global pandemic. And he's like,
You'd be like me.
He's like, yeah, I know. No, I was like, I mean, it's bad. Like, so it's, so in that sense, I haven't paid too much of attention to that just because of self-preservation. I've heard whispers of the injustice of it. And I actually have friends that have been like, I'm pretty sure I have it, but they won't test me.
Yeah.
So, and I think that in and of itself is tough because you just want to know for yourself. It's hard not to have answers, and you want to protect the people around you. So that's also tough. So I've only seen whispers of that, if I'm, being totally transparent.
Yeah. No, thank you. How do you feel about train horns? Does that?
There's literally a train track that runs through my yard, and then the train is going right now.
So, all right. So, for the two of you, well, for us, what does faithful witness look like in the midst of all of this? So, Bonnie, you're saying, which I love, which is very much regulating the amount of input.
Yeah.
Because it could easily dominate. So I think
It's
that's
so easy.
So faithful witness is, working hard to stay mentally, spiritually healthy yourself.
And even just what Bonnie's been doing on Sunday mornings. I think offering practical spiritual direction, I think is helpful. And I received text messages that said this is helpful.
Yeah. Yep. But what larger themes do you see?
I'm sorry about the train. I can't slow it down. I can't speed it up.
I love it. It's so good. It's real. This is all real.
It's real
What do you mean?
life.
What larger themes, like in terms of for faithful witness?
Yeah. So there was a big, push back to an article that said, listen, churches should not be closing.
Right.
That's a mistake. This is when churches should be open. You've just got, how should Christians be posturing themselves faithfully in these days? Given what we think God's doing, and what is being exposed that's kind of wrong in the world. What's that combined together to look like? Does that make sense?
Yes, totally. Unpopular opinion might be the one I have, which is if we know the science, right? If we know that social distancing, quarantine, that these practices, if we know it slows the illness and can save lives, then to continually meet as a church anyway, to me, that's the highest form of disassociation, as we were talking about before. This idea that somehow we're immune to something that everybody else can get. We're not even, it just seems like we're not even in that scenario. We're asking a question that's different than the answer. I mean, it's like it's like when someone's saying, I don't know, what is an apple? And you just say, a box. You just say something random, like a box. Like, it's like the question, the answer there is not even computing for me, right? It's like that. I don't understand that. And I also, so for me, that seems like a very privileged, totally, what is the word that I always say when I'm talking about that Ryan Lochte story that drives me nuts?
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I got a scale of 1 to Lochte. We're at Lochte. In this scenario, but what is that? But this idea that, like, I don't have to follow the rules. Like, I don't.
Right.
I can do whatever I want, and I can. So, I don't like that feeling. It makes me feel icky.
On a scale of 1 to Lochte, we're full Lochte on this one.
Lochte on this one. And that's how I feel. But this idea that, like, that makes me feel icky. We're setting up and we're telling the world, like, God is protecting us specially, and like we believe that. And so that whole
and
thing
therefore
makes me
punishing everybody else. I mean,
yes,
right? I mean, that's the
exactly.
flip of that.
Like, and this idea of, like, we're in, you're out.
Yes.
We've done these things right. You've done these things wrong. So that whole thing makes me beyond irritated and makes me feel gross. On a personal level, being a faithful witness, what's funny is I lived a long life of like begging and pleading God to do something, to intervene. Like it was like what do I have to do, or how many times do I have to say this thing for you to do what I want? And so I've actually been surprised, like looking at myself from outside of myself, going, oh, there's definitely like asking for prayer and healing and protection, and it would end. But so different than in the way that I recognize myself normally praying. And I have found the most solace in God and in like the state of the world and stuff like that by merely getting quiet. It's like I am going deeper into the space that's been given to me. So the space that's been given to me is this slow pace, these moments of quiet, even when kids are running around, this like almost like stop of time. Like I barely have my phone on me anymore. I never wear my watch. And so I'm trying to match it in the way that I approach God and going, maybe I am supposed to just get still. Maybe I am supposed to hear this like slow rumble. So I don't know if that's right or wrong. I don't know. To me, that's felt the most honoring to the situation, only because I'm trying to like take cues from a different way than I normally do, which is like a beg and plead and then wonder why nothing's happening, which causes me more anxiety.
Yeah. 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 Tim, what do you think, man? What do churches, what do Christians, what posture should they take in the middle of all this?
I mean, I definitely am in the same, or not the same boat. Bonnie and I are wired similarly. I don't know that I have achieved that level of zen. My phone and my watch are both on me. I've just been in go mode, and like I said earlier, like I haven't, which is rare for me. I've not been in panic mode about this at all. I don't know how to reference this other than because I spoke on Sunday at church, and so everything was pushed through this lens. So that's the only lens that I have right now because my whole brain's been in that mode. But we were talking about we've been going through Acts, and I was tasked with Acts chapter 4, and so I was the first person to speak in this digital void.
So you were in an empty room.
I was in an empty. Well, there was a worship team scattered around, but for the most part, an empty room. But so much of that book is, Peter and John have just been recently like. Peter was a ding-dong for a long period of time and is now filled with the Holy Spirit. And he's out there at Acts chapter 4, he picks up, he just healed the man who had been crippled, had been lame for his whole life. He was 40. He's my age. I'd just been sitting at the mouth of the Sanhedrin, and everybody saw him. Everyone knew him. And Peter healed him, and now he's walking around. And so the high priests are just like, I don't know how to deal with it. Like, we can't discount this. Everyone knows Frank's walking now. Like, how do we react to that? But Peter and John are just like, so much of the message for me kept hinging on this idea of proximity to Jesus. How to the closer you are to Jesus, it changes you. Yeah. Right. And Peter and John, Peter they got to travel around for 3 years and be in direct connection with Jesus, no matter how much of a ding dong Peter may have been. He was in close proximity, and it altered him. And the high priests were just like, this guy's different. He's been in the presence of Jesus. And so it's like, the question was like, how are we in proximity to Jesus now? How are we, they had flaming tongues of the Holy Spirit descend upon them and send them out. Like, what does that look like today for us? And the illustration for me, without telling the whole story, was, this story that Tony Campolo had shared years ago when I was a youth pastor. He was one of my first theological heroes, just because he just kind of lit me on fire. And he told this story about a pastor who had an agitating congregant, and who, how how do I tell a short version of this? He kind of drove the congregation nuts because he would show up to church late and would talk through the service and would always sit in a different area. And we always, like, everyone likes to sit in their spot at church. So this was extra agitating when he would come in late and sit in the wrong spot and then talk through the whole thing. But basically he gets sick. The pastor goes to his house. It kind of disrupts the normal flow and rhythm of the pastor's life. He keeps going back to give him communion and to pray with him and to do some chores for him. And eventually the guy ends up dying. And because when he comes to his house, he finds him unconscious on the floor, calls the ambulance, and they clothe him and bathe him and send him off to the thing. And then the hospital calls and says that he has died. And the pastor's like, I didn't even cry when my own father died, but I wailed when this guy died. And he's like, he fundamentally changed me, not by anything that he did, but by allowing me to do what Jesus would have done for him. And so it's like, what is proximity to Jesus? Is it just really intentionally involving ourselves in those who are in need and those who are marginalized? If it's Matthew 25, like we've talked about multiple times recently, and if it's loving your neighbor as yourself truly, like if it's really just that, if that's proximity to Jesus, then that is what I see as the church's response. And that's how I see the church changed. That's how I see society changed. That's how I see the world changed. Is just really actually caring about your neighbor and the people in your community and what that looks like. And, I think that there is a lot to say about discernment and the brain that God gave you and using it.
Yeah.
I think he was intentional with giving you this ability to discern and think.
Yeah.
That was rambling. Sorry.
Dude, no. Is someone preaching right now? Is there a sermon? Is there a sermon in the house right now? Feels that way. Feels that way.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, as we wrap up, Bonnie, what are we going to be doing in the next however long this lasts?
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to continue with my Sundays offering spiritual direction. We're trying to think of a good name. I'm the worst name giver, like title person that does titles in the history of the world. So maybe if you have a name, shoot it out to us. I don't know.
How about Sunday brunch with Bonnie?
Yes. No.
What time?
So it's at 8:30 Pacific. So that is 10:30 Central and 11:30 Eastern.
Eastern, despite what the flyers say.
That's right. Yeah, it does say PST. So I'm still going to do that Sundays, and then Mondays we still have our podcast coming out, and those will all be other topics like non-coronavirus related, just continuing to do what we do. And then Erre, you're going to be on Facebook Live and Instagram Live, right? On we just discussed this. Is it Wednesday and Fridays?
Wednesdays and Fridays at noon Eastern. Yep.
At noon Eastern. And what is it that you will be touching on and talking about?
Probably more specific to Corona stuff.
Yeah.
So
that'll be good.
Yep.
That'll be really good. And then we're going to do a monthly Zoom hangout, like a Zoom call. And so you guys can look around for the link on that. But we're just going to be getting on and discussing everything we've done over the past month, stuff we didn't get to talk about in depth, or questions that came up, or things we thought about later, questions that you guys have. So I'm looking forward to that because I think that will be really fun.
So let's reiterate all that. Sunday mornings, 8:30 Pacific, 10:30 Central, 11:30 Eastern. Bonnie will be on Facebook Live and Instagram Stories every Sunday morning.
Yep.
Yeah. And then Mike will be on Wednesdays and Fridays starting, we said April 1st, right?
Yeah.
April Fool's Day.
Appropriately enough.
But there's no joke here. He's really
no
coming
joke.
on.
It's for real. So if you don't, he won't log in and no one's there. Mike will be on Wednesdays and Fridays, kind of talking through fears and different things, theology and stuff behind the time period that we're in. And then the Zoom thing, I think that we are saying April 7th.
Oh, we said April 7th. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Tuesday,
7th.
April 7th. We will send out a link
in the
for that.
evening. Yeah.
In the evening. We said
9 Eastern, 6 Pacific.
Yes, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific.
So we'll give you guys
do
a link
Google
that you
Hangout.
can sign up, and then you'll get a link. Yeah.
Love it. Well done. All right. Bonnie, since you put everyone on the spot to do the blessing.
No, sir. It's, you know what? You're back.
No.
I think it's your time to shine with the blessing.
All right. In these days, may Jesus literally take the wheel. Amen.
Yes. Amen.
Literally.
Yep.
See you guys.
Bye.